Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. This is the third webinar of our free Membership Growth Online Summit 2017. And every day this week at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, a top expert joins us to share the strategies to help your organization grow. And I want to welcome you to day 3 of the summit. And this afternoon, we have Jeff Hurt with us. And Jeff is a top expert on events, especially when it comes to how you can create an experience for your attendees that is really, really transformational for them. And we'll bring Jeff on very shortly. In the meantime, let me introduce myself to those of you who are attending your first summit webinar this week. My name is Donald Cowper, and that's me on the left of your screen, and I'm on the Wild Apricot content team. And beside me on my right, sitting on my right and on the right of your screen is my colleague Rano. And he's here with us today to help you with any technical issues you might have. And although he likes snakes, because that is a snake around his neck, I'm gonna forgive him for that because he's such a good person and he's really, really helpful with all the technical stuff. So during the webinar, feel free to ask questions to us or to Jeff, and to do that, you can use the chat box. I want to quickly make some reminders before moving on. And the first is that I want to let you know that we are recording this webinar and the other summit webinars this week. We'll be sending you an email with a link to the recordings next week, so please watch out for that as well. You can earn 1 CAE credit for attending today's webinar and 1 CAE credit for any of the webinars you attend this week as well. We'll get going in just another couple minutes, but let me briefly say that today's webinar is being brought to you by Wild Apricot. I know we have lots of customers on with us today. I want to say hello to you all, and I'm sure many of you were here with us Monday and Tuesday, but we always have, as we know, lots of new people with us, and I want to say hello to you as well. And for those of you who don't know, Wild Apricot is membership management software. And for everyone who is already familiar with Wild Apricot, just bear with me for a half a minute while I quickly say to our new people that Wild Apricot is an all-in-one solution for anyone running a membership organization. And that's because you can manage your member and contact database, you can run your events, build your website, process all your payments, and much more. And many of our customers love the software because of how much time it saves them. It automates a lot of the administrative tasks that eat up their day, and that frees them up to focus on fulfilling their organization's mission. And at Wild Apricot, we've all enjoyed watching many of our customers grow and accomplish all sorts of good in the world, and they've watched us grow too since we started about 10 years ago. And thanks to our customers, as you can see on the screen, we've been ranked as the #1 rated membership management software solution on the market for the last 5 years running, in fact. And while we pride ourselves on helping people with great software, we're also a leading provider of free educational content like today's webinar. So if any of you have any questions about Wild Apricot, we're happy to answer them at the end of the webinar. You're all free to stick around with us after the hour if you're able. We're here to help. So now let me introduce today's presenter. Jeff Hurt is a leading authority on meetings, adult education, and conference design. He is the Executive Vice President of Education and Engagement at Velvet Chainsaw Consulting, and I love that name. And my colleague Rano is going to paste the link in for Velvet Chainsaw. I think we're just switching over the slides there. Okay, great. And Jeff, a bit more about Jeff before I bring him on. In 2012, Jeff was recognized as Educator of the Year by the Professional Convention Management Association, which I can tell you is no mean feat. Jeff has also worked in leadership roles with 5 associations, 5 government organizations, and several companies in the education, events, and meetings departments, including Meetings Professionals International and Promotional Products Association International, which is one of the top 50 shows in the industry. He speaks and he blogs frequently about meeting and technology trends, the future of conference education, adult learning, and all things meeting at velvetchainsaw.com. So I want to bring Jeff on. And Jeff, hello and welcome, and thanks for joining us today. I'm going to pass over the presentation to you, and I see your slide already up there, so that's great. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Donald. Appreciate it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are right now. How to turn your events into growth in your organization. I see there's quite a few of you on this webinar. If you've seen me do a webinar before, you know what's coming. And we're going to talk about some strategies for attracting and growing the right audience. So I want to know right off the bat, where in the world are you? I would like for you to use the question box on the right-hand side. I'd like for you to type in an answer to this. Where in the world are you? And tell me what your weather's like. Where in the world are you? And tell me what your weather's like. There's a bunch of us on this. We'll see how many of you respond. Where in the world are you and what your weather's like? Hi, John, Maryland, mild sunny. Vicky, hi. We're going to move kind of fast here. Lots of people in Raleigh, California, San Antonio, Pennsylvania, Ottawa. Good to see that. Great. Thank you, everybody, for participating with me. I greatly appreciate it. Saw some other people here in Dallas and in Texas. I'm in Dallas, Texas as well. Kind of overcast here in Dallas. Seattle, I was in Seattle last week. Beautiful Colorado, good to see that. Tampa Bay, great folks. Trinidad and Tobago, good to see that. Bahamas, yum. Waterloo, Ontario, Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks everybody for participating. We appreciate it very much. I'm going to move right along. You can keep typing in those responses. We're going to collect those. So I want to thank you for participating this afternoon. I know there's plenty of things you could be doing, and I want to thank you in advance for your mental engagement. I believe in doing a presenter-attendee agreement. In this presenter-attendee agreement, I believe in the law of the click. If at any time this presentation veers in a direction that doesn't meet your needs, you get a text, you get a phone call, you need to step away, you have the right to do so. You're adults. You don't need my permission. You don't need my invitation. You don't have to be courteous to me. I am here for you. You are not here for me. Let's get that straight. Bathrooms, I hope you know where they are in case you need to run. I know where mine is in case I just need to run out of here. Put those mobile devices around you on vibrate. Some of you have several computers open at the same time. I'm just going to ask you to mute some of them. This is a session where texting, typing, social sharing is welcome. You may social share anything I share with you. If you're going to use Twitter during this presentation, I'm going to ask you to use the golden rule. Tweet unto others as you would have them tweet unto you. Tweet something good before you tweet anything bad. Hi, Wendy from New Zealand, by the way. Hi, Joe from St. George. Also, during this presentation, I'm going to ask, let's make understanding our goal. Let's seek first understanding about how we use our events as growth opportunities. How do we use them as growth engines? And I'm going to declare that this is a safe space to agree, disagree, ponder, and question. And finally, I'm going to give you a free pass. You can use this free pass as frequently and as often as you want. If I ask you a question, I'm going to ask you several questions. So I'm going to ask you to participate with me. If I ask you a question and you don't want to participate, you can just mentally say free pass, or you can type in FP, or you can type in free pass, and I know that's what you're doing. You're just going to use your free pass for that one. Here's a little bit about me. You participate by typing in with questions that you just did. So I'm a coal miner's grandson born in the hills of West Virginia. I call myself a West Virginia hillbilly. I'm not calling anybody on this webinar a hillbilly. I'm calling myself that. I've worked in the nonprofit sector most of my life. I'm an environmental advocate, meeting and event professional. My background is actually education. I've worked for some of these organizations over the years. And so I work for this company now. I'm executive vice president. And the reason I went, because somebody just wrote in that they were south of me in Austin. Yes, good to see you Austinites. Well, good to see that somebody else is proud West Virginian as well. And somebody's also everything except for the coal miner's daughter, Rita. Good to see that. A little bit about you. I'd like to know what your favorite dessert is. Would you type in for me? So the question, you're not going to see people's replies. You're only going to see what I'm going to read to you. You're not going to see other people's replies. I have to tell them to. So cherry cheesecake, pudding, apple pie, brownies, mom's apple pie, black forest cake, chocolate chip dough, fruit crisp, ice cream, lots of ice creams, tiramisu, lots of tiramisus, creme brulees, meringue pie, chocolate. I'm all about chocolate too. Carrot cake, cookies, anything sweet. Millionaire shortbread. My family makes shortbread every year the day after Thanksgiving. It's an old tradition that's come from Europe that we do and pass down. Rice Krispie treats, a bowl of strawberries. Nicola, I'm with you. Bananas Foster's, gelato. Robin, I like anything dark chocolate, lemon cookies. Yes, Norma, you got the right place. Fruit salad, chocolate cakes. Thank you so much, folks. I'm going to continue on. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to gain some strategies to identify and maintain market share of economic buyers and decision makers. We're going to talk about those terms and why you need to understand those terms. We're going to talk about the business model for your events and how they can help become growth engines for your organization. And then we're also going to explore why audience and how audience segmentation is critical to your meetings, events, and conference success and what that's all about. And that's a critical thing for us to understand. And we're also going to look at acquisition cost of new attendees versus cost of loyal attendees. Why it's critical that in the meetings and events that you do, you maintain loyalty before going after new people and what the different costs of those are. So those are some of the strategies we're going to talk about. It's your turn. Here are the three of them. Here's the three learner outcomes. By the end of this presentation, I hope you're able to do one of these. So Michelle, you're actually typing in the right area where you need to. That's all you're going to see is this question area. You're typing it in the right place. That's where you type responses to me, okay? So which one of these three interests you the most? And type 1, 2, or 3 if you'll type that in. And if it's none of those, type in none. That's as well. This is actually what we're going to talk about. 1, 2, 3. And if you're looking for something different, this is what this webinar is going to be about. That's why I often give my learner outcomes out so that if people feel like this isn't going to meet their needs, they can jump on out of here. I don't want to bore you. If you're looking for something else, sorry about that, but this is what we're going to talk about. All right, we're kind of all over the board. Now, a couple other things I want to say to you. In a webinar like this, I happen to know, because my background is education, that the most important piece of it is really your understanding of what we're talking about. And it's your processing of the information that I may be sharing with you. It's not about me covering content. It is not about how much content I can cover and how fast you can listen. That doesn't equate to learning at all, nor does it equate to attitude, behaviors, and skill change. It is about you processing this under what I'm talking about with you, making sense of it, connecting it to your own experiences, and then figuring out how to act on it. That's why I ask you to type in responses to me, because at least at that point, we're getting you to process. And you can always use your free pass if you don't want to participate. I just know that in order to change attitudes, behaviors, and skills, to give you something of value, because if you just hear the information here and you don't learn it, it's of no value. If you learn it here, but you don't remember it and you can't apply it, it's of no value. So realize that when I'm asking questions of you, I'm giving you time to process this and to think about how it might apply to your situation. And again, if these three learner outcomes don't meet your needs, I really apologize about that. This is what we're talking about. At least you can gain your hour back and do something else. Or you can stick around and see if there's something here you can glean from. So why would this presentation be important to you? What's in it for you? What's the magic carrot that's in this for you? Well, growth is something we all want to have happen. There's growth in maturity of people at our events, and there's growth in numbers, and there's growth in revenue. And we all want to see an increase in sustainability. When I use the word sustainability, I'm talking about financial sustainability. How do we make sure that our events are financially sustainable? And unfortunately, this is what happens with so many of our conferences and events. This happens. It happens all kinds of times. And sometimes our events seem to be doing well, really well, because we compare attendance numbers to attendance numbers. But yet we don't know how many of those attendees are truly loyal to us. Most businesses, well, all businesses, is built on a model of loyal customers, people who continue to buy from us. And with events, oftentimes they happen once a year, or we may have 2 or 3 a year. But we don't go into our data deep enough to find out how many of these people are coming to more than one of our events, or how many of the past 3 years' events, how many people attended 2 out of those 3? Who are our loyal customers? Who are our loyal members that we need to be really making sure that we keep? Because if we can keep them, they become our evangelists. They will grow their share of wallet with us, and they'll start looking where they can buy more from us. So it's really critical that we understand the ups and the downs that happens in our events. We start looking at the data that we have in the background and figuring out, what does this mean? What are some patterns here? What are some outliers? So it's your turn again. Here's my question for you. What do you currently do with your events to create growth? What are some things that you do today to create growth for your events? What are some things that you do today to create growth with your events? So we've had some social media, advertising, evaluation of current events, more social media, email marketing, more social media, look at attendees, publicize Facebook, advertising, marketing, tell stories of the work, keynote presenters, newsletters, marketing, lots of social media in here. Hire PR consultant, target marketing. Thank you, somebody who used the word target marketing there. Evaluating current event strategies, participants help co-design, email marketing to your peers, newsletter word of mouth, appropriate content for the audience. Keep them simple, give gift cards versus trinkets to volunteers, education speaker series. Lots of things coming in here. Lots of different things. Here's another one, target presenter to a specific sector. Interesting. Innovative events, word of mouth, use Meetup to advance social media. Okay, so here's kind of what's interesting in all of this process. We never really have learned how to acquire new customers in the event and the meetings industry. We're really good at the logistics of meetings and events. We're really good at scheduling things and putting things together at venues, but we're not really good at how do we get new customers. We don't spend a lot of time in that arena and thinking about it because we let somebody else do that for them. Somebody just typed in, give them value for their money. Thank you, Michelle. So what's really critical here is when we start thinking about this, it depends upon, I'm sorry, my computer is moving on its own. We never really learned how to gain the right customers. And more than customers, we want the right customers. We want the right customers, not just any customer. And this depending upon easy sale and past marketing methods. So many of us just think, well, our people will come. They have nothing else to do. There's no place else for them to go. And we get stuck sometimes in this method of, well, they're going to come. They've always come before. I've worked at some organizations where my bosses would say to me, we'll always have people. They have no place else to go. They have nothing else to do. And I'm like, well, they do have other things they could be doing. It doesn't mean they're always going to come here. So which groups do you provide programming for at your conference? Think about your meetings, your events. Which groups do you provide programming for? I just kind of want to see some responses that you would have in this arena. What are some of the groups? Okay, we got some physicians, some scientists, members at large, activists, working women, trades, law, musicians, retirees, extension educators, librarians. Seeing lots of interesting responses here. Music educators, young professionals, natural foods industry, park users, students. So here's what's interesting to me in all of these responses that just came through. Most of them are broad groups of people. Some of you even said members. Some of you said members at large. Some of you said new members. Very few of them are segmented into very specific types. We start going after broad professions, broad nonprofit groups, broad types of people, and we need to dig deeper into those types of groups. And it's something that we're not taught to do oftentimes in the meetings and the event space. But the results of doing something like this can be critical to the future of your events. Many of us use what I call the shotgun approach. We just throw all kinds of stuff out there. We just throw anything and everything out there to see what might happen. And we try to be all things to all people. And we even have our volunteers who might say this to other volunteers. We're all things to all people. Well, I don't know about you, but I really don't like going to a smorgasbord all-you-can-eat buffet experience. I find oftentimes that everything seems watered down to me, and there seems to be a lack of focus, a lack of threading. The only time I like going to an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord buffet is when they're really high-end and they're expensive, and they have threaded it around a holiday or an event, but they're very picky about what they're putting out, or when I have to take my extended family somewhere and I'm paying for it. So you see where it just comes down to cost and what I want to pay for and what I don't want to pay for. And so oftentimes we become these big box department store type events, a discounted quantity for the masses, where we try to be everything. And somebody typed in spray and pray. Absolutely. And so who decides the content and the speakers for your events, meetings, and conferences? Who decides the content and the speakers for your meetings and events? I'm kind of curious. So somebody wrote in, all you can eat breakfasts are pretty good. Some of them are. I know some of them aren't. So I'm seeing a lot of event committees. I'm seeing a lot of our members. I'm seeing a lot of our councils, members, board of directors, members, chairs, CME groups, program coordinator, conference professionals, board of directors. Wow, all over the place. So seeing lots of responses here coming in, lots of, for the majority of them, the volunteers are deciding the speakers and the content. And let me just throw this to you. Let me just offer a tension that exists. Are your volunteers who are in charge of your speakers and your content also in charge of making sure that that event breaks even or makes money? Are they ultimately responsible for the expenses and the revenue for that event? And if they are, can they get fired off of that committee if it fails? If they are, can they get fired off that committee if it fails? So it's very interesting because we're kind of mixed here with yeses and nos. It's always been my experience in every association that I worked in, ultimately, when I was in charge of a conference or a meeting or an event, the responsibility for the expenses and the revenue fell in my hat. Yet the responsibility for the programming fell in volunteers' hat. And there was a disconnect because if it didn't work, they weren't held accountable, I was. Right down to that all the speakers that I would secure for an entire year for an event, my board started holding me accountable to the scores that they had. So what's interesting is our content is often defined by committees, and there's pros and cons to that. There's good things and there's challenges with that, because oftentimes people serve on a committee and they come in with an agenda of one. They have their own agenda and they think that what works with them only works for the whole entire group, and they don't take on the vision of the target market. And it's a challenge. It can be really challenging for all of us when we're working with volunteers. And all of you on this call, you know what I'm talking about. And instead, we've got to become laser approach. We've got to use this laser approach with a highly amplified, coherent, focused beam on who our target market is, what their needs are, what keeps them up at night, and what helps them get up in the morning, and how do we help them solve their problems, and how do we help them aspire to greatness. So when you have volunteers that are running things, what we have to do is help them take on a broader vision and begin to understand who their target markets are. Because ultimately, you don't want to have events that are running in the hole unless the organization is putting the money forward. And it's okay if the event doesn't make money. But for the majority of us, we want them to break even. And more than break even, we want them to make money. And that's always a challenge for us. So here's my next question for you. What is the primary objective of most of your events? And forget the word conferences here. You can say events or conferences. What is the primary objective of most of the events and conferences that you plan? Okay, I got education, fundraising, education, personal growth, lots of education, engagement, value to attendees, education, networking, information, continuing ed, training, networking, revenue, gather alumni together, only one event per year, networking, education, value to members, dollar signs, networking. Wow. So lots of education here, lots of networking here, socialization, lots of education here. Also, revenue is popping up as well, adding value. So, what if revenue is part of this? And I'm just going to say this: education is not free. There's a cost to education. In the United States, we have public education. Well, the citizens of towns pay for that public education. We pay for it through our taxes. And so it's really not free. There's a cost to it. And if it's information, if you're competing on information, if your conference, your meeting, your event is just to give out information, you're competing with the internet. The internet is the best information delivery tool. All of you that said education, I would submit to you that I really think you're about learning, changing attitudes, behaviors, and skills. Education is about teaching skills in very specific areas. Learning is about changing mental models so that we can grow professionally. So revenue is one of these big ones, and it's the one that we don't like to talk about much. Profits and monetizing an event over a long period of time. And it's a challenge to often talk about this. And sometimes we have to talk about it with our committees, with our leaders, with our board of directors. Because the board is physically responsible for your group, for your association, for your nonprofit, for your charity. That's one of their responsibilities. And we can't just hire every big name speaker that we want because we can't always afford them. Nor does it mean it's going to change somebody's attitudes, behaviors, or skills. So let me repeat this to you again. Somebody asked me if I would repeat the difference between education and learning, please. And by the way, I also gave Donald complete freedom to jump in here and interrupt me at any time if I miss a question, because there's a lot of comments and questions coming in. So, and if he does that, please understand that I've invited him to do that. I want him to do that. And I also know from research that on a webinar, anytime the voice changes, your attention span goes up. I don't see it as rude. So the difference between education and learning. Education teaches skills in critical thinking, teaches skills in analysis, judgment, but it teaches skills in those areas. Learning is actually physical change in the brain. Learning literally means connecting information to what you already know and your experiences, making sense of that information, and then figuring out how to apply it. Learning is a change in a mental model. It is a change in attitudes, behaviors, and skills. And I would submit to you that all of you that said education information, you're really about helping your customers move forward. And I'm going to use the word customers because oftentimes with your events, you can have non-members come to those events, and that's one way you can grow your membership. You want to attract not only members, but also non-members. And let me just throw this to you. You serve your members best by serving your profession or your industry first. You serve your members best by serving the industry or the profession or the trade first. Because when you do that, you can help everybody grow a bigger piece of the pie. So what many of us have done with our events is we use something called product centricity. And see if this doesn't sound familiar. The more product you have, you sell, the cheaper it becomes to produce, you can sell more and make more money. And you may even have board members or volunteers say, we can just replicate that. We can put it up online and we can have it then for on demand and we can charge a fee for that. Well, webinars have become commoditized, folks. They've become very commoditized, and there's lots of them out there that are free. You can find lots of them. It's about the quality of the webinar, and it's hard to charge a price for a webinar unless you're offering something that they can't get anywhere else and will help your customer get ahead. And that's challenging to do. Most conferences, most events, most meetings have product centricity mentality. The more content offered for all the stakeholders, more likely people will register. We even go at it from let's offer more content. Well, more isn't exactly the best. I don't know about you guys, but for me and my family and my friends, we like Cheesecake Factory, but we like Cheesecake Factory for one thing. Cheesecake. We don't like going to Cheesecake Factory for the meal. The 30-page menu drives us up a wall. And what do we go to? We always seem to be going back, and we order the same thing we've always ordered because it's the simplest way to get through that menu. So this product centricity model is what I call the shampoo model. You know, Water, shampoo, rinse, repeat. Create a conference, market the conference, sell the conference, repeat. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sounds familiar. Well, this product centricity, what we do is we just tweak the conference slightly. See if this doesn't sound familiar. You take last year's meeting or event and you send it around to your volunteers and your staff and the board, and you say, is there anything in this we want to change for this year? And you tweak things here and there a little bit, but you don't make any major changes. You just change the filling. You change the substance. We take the same model and we just keep repeating it. The shampoo model. Wet the hair, add the shampoo and conditioner, rinse, repeat. And we go at it over and over again. But there's cracks in this product centricity model. Attendees, even those of you on this webinar, are demanding better experiences. You want something better. Thanks, Bart, by the way. You want something different and better, even when it comes to a webinar. You're looking for something more. And you expect better ROI. We want better ROI from these events. Sometimes we just get into this routine of doing them over and over again that we've completely forgotten the purpose of it. What was the purpose of this event at the start with? And who was the target market we were going after? Everybody? You know, I have good friends who run a Greek restaurant here in Dallas, Texas. And what's interesting with them is they'll say, well, there's 6 million people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We don't have to worry about getting loyal customers because there's always people out there who'll come to our restaurant. And I laugh with them sometimes, and ROI is
unmuted.
Return on investment. ROI is return on investment.
People ask about that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Go ahead, Donald.
Yeah, no, I just see people asking about ROI, and that is, return on investment, as you said. There you go.
Yeah. Thanks. Return on investment. So, you know, how much money you're putting in and what are you getting out of it? And let me put it to you this way. Customer satisfaction of your event. Customer satisfaction, that they were satisfied and you have everybody like this event, does not mean learning occurred or that there has been any change in attitudes, behaviors, and skills. We're asking the wrong questions in our evaluations. And we tout 80% of our people who came to our event last year were rated it high. Their satisfaction rate was high. The corporate executive board based in Chicago found that 60 to 80% of people who are satisfied with an experience default and go somewhere else. Defect and go to somewhere else because satisfaction is not what keeps them there. That's transactional. We want something transformational, something that changes attitudes, behaviors, and skills, something that changes attitudes, behaviors, and skills. And one of the cracks in product centricity is we're like free agents. Our loyalty is fickle. In today's world, we jump around a lot looking for loyalty. Free agents in the sports world who will go from, you know, whoever's going to give them the best deal or the best experience. So this product centricity model is vulnerable. The way you're planning conferences now is more vulnerable than it was in the past. And what's going to be the challenge here is as you share this information with board of directors or with your volunteers, some of them will not agree with this information because they're stuck in the model that they've always done it this way and it's always worked. Growth causes change. You cannot have growth without having change. It's just not going to occur. You've grown your entire life. Your body is constantly growing and changing. So we have to think of our events in this mindset. You didn't get number 3. Let me go back to it. Let me go back here. Like free agents, meaning that your attendees, your customers are like free agents. They're very fickle. They'll go anywhere. Doesn't mean they'll come to you. And their levels of standards are becoming so high that they may come one year and not come back. I happen to know an organization that seems to have a very successful annual meeting. If you just look at the attendance numbers, it looks like it's a very successful meeting. However, they have no loyalty. They have absolutely no loyalty. Their loyalty numbers are really, really low, meaning people coming 2 out of 3 years. People go once, and they say, well, I've been there and done that. Why do I need to go back? It's the same thing over and over and over again, which means we, as the ones who are changing working on the meetings and events have to start changing up the experience. So satisfaction. So if you're in the rates that corporate executive board said, 60 to 80% of the people who are satisfied will defect and go somewhere else. Satisfaction does not equal transformation. Satisfaction does not equal that there's been attitude change, a behavior change, or a skill change. Satisfaction means for that amount of time, they were content during that amount of time. And I would submit to all of you on this call that you want more than satisfaction. We're about helping an entire profession or industry grow. So I hope that helped you here. So in the past, those of us with all types of different organizations, from the small ones to large ones, we had the decks stacked in our favor. We had the experts in the industry. They were primarily in our organization. They were nowhere else. And we had the only delivery model of information that was available. We had info delivery models that secured the market share. This was before the internet really became as like it is today. We had the best way to get information to our members and non-members, to our professions, our trades, our societies. And we had very few competitors. Well, today you have lots of competitors. Even some of your own members are your competitors because they're competing at giving out information and experiences with your audiences. Well, there was this perfect storm that's happened. Easy access to the experts. We can get to the experts very easily through social media today. And the information is widely available. It's widely available in lots of ways. And you may say, well, mine is for certification, or mine is for certain, it's behind the membership wall. It's still easily available. There's lots of information out there, and we have increased competitors. Not all registrants to your event are created equal. Not all registrants to your events are created equal. And so we have to start thinking about this just a little bit differently. Customer centricity. Now, before we talk about what customer centricity is, I'd like to know, what does customer centricity mean to you? What does customer centricity mean to you and your events? What do you think? What does customer centricity mean to you and your events? Offering people what they want, provide value to customers that cannot get elsewhere, viewing from their perspective, meeting customers' needs for growth, focus on customers' needs and interests. Everyone is a customer. I just talked about that. Everyone may be a customer, but not everyone is the right customer. Let's go back to Cheesecake Factory, and let's go back to my Greek restaurant. They want repeat customers. They just don't want one-timers. I think all of you want repeat customers too, I would submit. There might be some of you on here that don't, but that's rare. Value that causes loyalty, meeting needs of customers, structure the event so that it's beneficial for the attendees, non-burdensome. Customers see the value in attending and participating, gear content to individual needs, adapting to what the customer wants and needs. We've done the same thing for the past so many years. Bringing value, targeted law professional audience, providing something our core customers will find value in and help them do better. So all of these are in the right vein and the right thing. Don, go ahead.
Oh, there's just somebody saying from their target market. So there's that phrase again.
Yeah, and this phrase is critical. This is a business phrase. And I know that it's kind of unusual sometimes in events and the conference and meetings. Thanks for pointing that out, Donna. It's an important phrase. We really have to start thinking about who our target market is and who our target customers are and which ones of those can we grow. If you're about growing your organization in your meeting, that's important. Anything else there, Donald, you want to point out?
I think I'm amazed at how many of the great answers that you caught there. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, Donald, one of the things we want to make sure is we collect all these responses.
We can do that.
And you might want to send them out with everybody to read.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll give an interesting insight to everybody else who's on this.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We can do that.
Good. Okay, so let's move on here. Customer centricity. Now, here's the thing. Customer centricity is focusing on the right customer for the strategic advantage. The right customer for the strategic advantage means not getting distracted by the one-offs. Not getting distracted by the one-offs. And this is really hard for board of directors because they want to help everybody. They want to help as many people as possible. Go ahead, Donald. Oh,
Just someone asking, how do you identify the right customer there? So
that's a great question, and we're going to answer that. That's in this webinar. I'm going to help you do that. Coming up, great question. Glad you're there. So customer centricity is not a philosophy. It's not about customer service. It's not about being nice to customers. And let me just fast track the answer to that question because I think it's critical. What you need to do is you have to sit down and you have to bucket your customers. You have to start putting them in lists. And you have to looking at which one of them have come out of the past 2 to 3 years. So you want to get 3 years of data. So I'm getting some feedback now. Was another question?
No worries. Go ahead.
Okay. You want to take 3 years of data and you want to compare how many of your individuals came 2 of those 3 years. 2 of those 3 years. Then you want to look at those individuals. I'm getting feedback again, Donald. Can you go mute for a second?
Yeah, I'm on mute, so I'm actually not sure where that's coming from.
Well, we're hearing you. So, all right. So, wait, we got it now. Whatever it was, we got it. And so, as a professional association, you do have customers. Your members and non-members are your customers. So I need to make that really clear. I've always worked for a professional association. And all of my professional association, the membership was customers. The non-members were customers as well. So you have to go through, and I'm using the word customer because we get stuck that we're only to serve our members. And if you want to grow your organization, you can't just serve the members you have. You have to start growing it and getting non-members to come in and become members. So you have to start thinking about it from this different angle. And you have to start thinking about it, both members and non-members. But what you want to do is you want to go back and look at how many came 2 out of 3 years. Then you want to target, see if there's any patterns there. Are they a certain size organization? Are they a certain level of skill? Have they been in the industry a certain number of years? And you want to look at that. Then you want to look at your marketplace, your profession, your trade, whatever type of group you do, and say, where is the growth in this particular market industry? You may not be able to answer that question, but your board of directors and your committees can help you here. They know their industries, their professions, their societies inside and out. They know what the trends are. So you want to ask them, where do we see the growth in the next 2 to 3 years? What's going to happen? And how do we start programming to track those people over there to becoming members of our group as well? And that's how you start targeting who your target members are. And here's the other thing that happens. Let me put it to you this way. Oftentimes when we're a nonprofit association or a trade association or a professional society, we do content and programming for early entry-level people. And we forget the people who've been there for many years. So Jay Cross was a researcher in informal learning. And what he found is that people who've been in a industry, trade, or profession for an extended period of time, a veteran, 10 to 15 years, if we will program advanced content for those veterans attract newcomers. Those veterans attract beginners because the beginners want to be with the veterans. Think about that. The beginners want to be with the people who've been through the experience. So you don't have to program for the beginners. But if you attract the veterans, you attract the beginners. The same thing with consultants. I'm now a consultant to the trade show industry. I'm now a consultant to the meetings industry. Conferences that are for meetings and events, they don't need to program for me as a consultant, because if you program and get the right target market there that I want to be with, I'm going to come automatically. So when you start getting this through your mind, there are follow groups. There are groups that will follow others that you don't have to program for. So if you can really figure this out, program for the right target market and who they are. So thank you, webinar attendee. We know you're late. We appreciate it. Glad you're here. And you'll be getting all this information later as well. So I know that's just a quick overview. And I know I've got 15 minutes here. I'm not going to get through my entire slide deck. Please don't get mad at me for that. I can't be a person of one for everybody. And there's some ground information we have to understand to get to the other facts, because I could just teach you the steps to do something, but if you don't understand the issue underneath the steps, you will fail at customizing it for your context. So customer centricity cannot be fostered via mission or your guide. And the strategy is to align topics with the needs and solutions for the most valuable customers. You want to be attracting those people who are going to come back and be repeat buyers from you. There are other ways you can help those that are one-timers. I'm not saying totally ignore them in your mission of your organization. I'm just saying for specific events, if your goal is to make revenue, we have to think about it a little bit differently. And the money we make from these events can then be put back into programs and services to people who can't get there or that have other needs. So think of it like that. See this event as a growth engine for ways to grow your organization differently. And the aim of it becomes more profits for the long term. Is the customer always right? Well, I would say that the right customer is always right. Not all customers are created equally. There's two types of conference customers. Good customers, good customers and everyone else. And if you're just looking for anybody to buy your event, you've already bought into a commoditized event because you don't care who they are. You just want them to buy it. And when we get to that point, that's a clear indication that your event is not financially sustainable in its current form. Now, I know I may be stepping on toes with that one, so apologize. So your organization is better served if it spent more time on attracting good customers for your conference, and the right customers hold the key for long-term profitability. Now remember, you can throw the word members in here if you want, or you can say members and non-members. Just remember that non-members may buy programs and services from you. They're just going to pay a higher fee, unless you've got that you don't even sell services to non-members. So the right customer gives strategic advantage over competition. The right customers. So how would you identify the right customers for your conference planning team? I know it's a rhetorical question. I just kind of want to see what you think. How would you identify the right customers for your planning team, or have your planning team do it? How would you do that? Got any ideas? Thought leaders? Thanks, Eric. For those of you that I still got around. Thought leaders, okay. Review historical data. Those that are loyal to the association. Could be that
someone suggesting survey.
Yeah, surveys might be a good way, but surveys don't always give us the right answers, and sometimes a focus group of just 6 people will give you more than a survey will. Match your products to their needs. Look at the data for conferences. Try to remove the personal agendas. Thank you. Post seminar questionnaires. Identify long-term members. Long-term members. I like where you're going, Judy and Vicky. I like what you're thinking about. Best photographers as presenters. Okay. Active customers. Carefully chosen focus group. Yep. What I often will say is you can pick up the phone and talk to 6 people in your organization that are members and quickly get a flavor of what would be going on. So value over time, length of involvement, identify members that are licensed and need professional development credits. So lots of good comments coming here. So economic buyers, here's what you want. You want people that are going to buy from you, and you want people that are going to buy from you more than once. You want people that are going to buy from you consistently. And I'm going to throw this to you. If in your events that you're planning, the conferences, meetings, and events that you're planning, if people are not willing to pay out of their own personal pockets to attend your events, that's a clear signal of the value of your event. I hope you heard that. Because if they're just depending upon their organization to pay for them or their attendance to your event, you've got a problem. It's not the irresistible event experience. And you want decision makers to come to your event. You want the people who make decisions about what's going to happen and what's going to be bought. This can be anything from the board members to volunteer leaders to staff. And you want people that are coming, they're going to help grow the event. So I'm going to skip this. Customer centric. I want you to look at this. Are these organizations that are coming up here, excuse me for a second, are these companies customer centric? Nordstrom, Starbucks, Walmart. Do you think, are they customer centric? Are they customer centric? What do you think? Do you think they're customer centric? Okay, I've got 2 no's. Trying to click that background clicking. Sorry about that. My chair is acting up today. I need to put some oil on it. My fault. Nobody else wants to respond to this one. Yes, 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 they are. Here we go. All but Walmart. Not sure.
A few
Getting
votes
some
for
FP.
Starbucks.
Yeah. Starbucks does have the card. No employee is tempting. Not sure. 2 of 3, maybe yes. Well, let's dig into this. We can keep those comments coming in. They're about money. So, are they customer centric? Nordstrom's, Starbucks, Walmart do not collect long-term data about their customers. They don't collect long-term data about their customers. This is where you want to start going. You need to start collecting long-term data about your customers. This is what's really important to be customer-centric. This requires data, and it requires more than just registration information. You need to dig in deep with some of your customers. You need to collect, more and track and monitor more than just transactions. Do you really know what's keeping up your customers at night? Do you know what's causing your members not to be able to sleep in their profession, their society, or their trade? Are you aware of what's coming around the bend, and are you aware of their aspirations, where they want to be 2 to 3 years from now? Their past purchasing habits is just one of the things that you want. And that's one that we normally have in our data, but we really need to be collecting this. So Nordstrom doesn't really maintain an email. They maintain an email list, but they just broadcast it out. They're not collecting deeper data. Now, you may have a Nordstrom buyer for you that's doing that on their own. I have a couple buyers that know my likes and dislikes, but that buyer has done it on their own. They don't do it as a whole on Nordstrom. So investing in the customer and investing in tech and staff to collect the right data is where we need to go. And that's always a challenge. So how does this square with international associations? Don't customers have a right to be forgotten in the EU? Well, you can always opt out of things, but if you're a member of an organization and we send out information, want to know when your birth date is and what your likes and dislikes are, what your strengths are, where you want to be in 3 to 5 years, you have the right to not answer that. You can opt out from that, but I can better serve you if I have that information on you. I can better target my offerings to what your needs are and also to what your aspirations are. So we have to move away from this product centricity conference, develop and sell educations they think their customers want, to really moving into flipping this whole conference model and becoming customer centric. Develop and sell educations we know our customers want. We are 100% sure this is what they want and they need. So content satisfaction, content satisfies a pain point, provides relevant solutions to a problem. But more than the content, it's about the experience with that content. What are they going to do with that content at your event? How are they going to get it? And how are they going to network around that content at your event? And how are we going to aggregate, to curation? Because right now we just collect information and aggregation, but we have to curate it to the right content for the right audience at the right time at the right place. So this requires a different way of looking audience segmentation. Here's how I plan conferences and events. I lay out a schedule for them, and I sit down with my conference team and we talk about what are the top issues of the veterans of our industry. And we pull together some top threads and we vote on them. And then we lay out our conference agenda and we place in the topics that we know will attract the target market. Then we go out for a call for proposal for speakers and say, here's our topics that we're looking for. Who can deliver these? You see a different model there. So I am running out of time. There's more content in this deck about this whole customer centricity, how to flip the model. And there's 2 points at the end of this deck that I think will be beneficial to you. I'm going to turn it back over to Donald. Thank you so much for participating. You've been a great group. I appreciate it, and have a great remainder to your Wednesday. Donald, back to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm just going to get Rano to flip it back over to can you see that? Show up? Okay, great. Okay. Thank you so much, Jeff. Wow. And actually, just very quickly, someone was asking strategies for keeping attendees engaged, and I think part of what you just did was show us how to do that. You made it very interactive, and there was so much participation. It was actually just a thrill to watch the question box just get filled up and scroll quite rapidly. It was difficult to follow. I'm very impressed that you were able to do that, Jeff. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I just want to also say that we are going to share the recording with everyone here in a follow-up email next week after the summit is over. Please look out for that. Now that we are coming to the end of the webinar, let me also quickly mention that if you're new to Wild Apricot or have questions for us, I'll cover some free resources and offers in just a moment. If you're already familiar with Wild Apricot and you're anxious to continue the conversation and you have questions about Jeff's presentation that we didn't get to, I encourage you to join our Facebook group. Rano is going to paste the link in for that group right now. It's actually a great place to connect with your peers and with our network of experts like Jeff. And let me just, there we are. So if you're new to Wild Apricot, let me just say before you jump into Facebook, if that's what you want to do, let me just tell you that you can find more free educational content on our Academy. Rano's going to paste the link in to the Academy in the chat, and that's where you can find more webinars, including recordings of all our past webinars. And Jeff has done a webinar for us in the past. You can find that there, along with webinars from all sorts of other experts. I also recommend you take a look at the resources and content on our blog and articles. There's lots of helpful content there about growing your membership, running events as well, like today's topic, recruiting volunteers, and so on. And all of that content is free. And lastly, if you're running a membership organization, whether that's a nonprofit, an association, or club, or any type of organization, you're welcome to try our software at no cost for 30 days. That's also free for 30 days. Feel free to take advantage of this opportunity, especially if you're looking for ways to automate a lot of the tasks that consume your life. And Rano's going to paste the link in the chat window for that. You just click on that. You'll come to our website. You can enter your email name and organization name, and you're ready to go away with your free trial. Also, let me just tell you that if you do want to receive a call from one of our coaches, just type your phone number into the chat. I'll make sure that one of our coaches gets in touch with you. Now we are snuggling up to the top of the hour here, 3 o'clock Eastern time. And if you're able to stick around for a few minutes, we're going to stick around. I'm going to pass the mic over to Rano, who can answer any questions you might have about Wild Apricot, and then we can all find each other on Facebook. But I will pass it over. Sorry?
Donald, this is Jeff. Any questions that come in that I didn't get answered, if you'll just send them on to me, I'll give you email responses, and you can send them out to everybody.
Yeah, that sounds great. Wonderful. Yes, thank you. And we'll do that. And then so please take advantage of that kind offer from Jeff there. Thanks, everybody. And then Rano, I'll pass it over to you. We do obviously have event functionality in our software, so maybe some of what Jeff talked about today made you start thinking about running your events and the technology to support that. And Rano can answer any questions you have about that. So thank you, everybody. On behalf of Wild Apricot, and thank you, Jeff, and everybody who joined us and participated. It was really wonderful to see. Okay, here's my friend Rano.